Hello, peoples. Hope you're all great. We've been MIA, I suppose, for quite some time with the Stoked Bloke podcast. It's great to be back at the Pipeline Studios, courtesy of a New Earth project. Massive thanks to everyone there for the good that they're doing and the support that they give us. And yes, mate, there has been an awful lot going on in the surfing world. From controversies around judging to death threats to events that are celebrating making the world a better place through surfing, the ISA Games. There's been all sorts of stuff going on. So in today's show, we're going to touch on a lot of that stuff, a few other little interesting tidbits that I came across. But last time we spoke, we came back from Bells Beach. And yes?
I'm just laughing about the Bells Beach experience that you had. You got fined, and your license might get taken away because of someone else driving your rental car through the cameras, which we know are a problem.
Big problem.
On that actual route. Melbourne Airport to Bells Beach happens a lot. I'm from America, and I've probably got thousands and thousands of dollars fines, and it doesn't matter because I'm not from there, and my license is not from there. They can't do anything, but your license was on the car.
My license was on the car. The driver of said car had got to the airport and realised that they'd forgotten some important documents back in Torquay and took off like a bat out of hell, as they say, and went through 7...
You could be going like 2 kilometers over and you get a ticket, right? I mean, it's not much.
But I think this time we were doing, there was some 135s, 140s in 100 zones flying through the speed cameras.
Pro surfers like to go fast.
All the way back, got the left behind articles into the car, back. Total of 7 fines, I think $3,500, and it was all on my name. And all these things start arriving, and my license has been suspended. But we've sorted it out. We're all good now. And then what I got to do was go to the Maldives on my traditional coaching trips. First time since 2019, so 3 years off. And some of the people on those trips had booked to do it back then and had waited all that time to come and go on the trip with me. And we did the first trip at Kanduma with 6 guests, and then we went and did a boat trip.
What'd you like better, the camp or the boat trip?
I loved them both. The camp is luxurious and comfortable. And
easy with the family at the camp, yeah.
Yeah, and there's stuff for everyone to do. Yeah. Really good.
Boat trip is more hardcore surfing.
It's hardcore, and you can get some weather, you can get some wind. We got some weather, we got some wind, we got waves. We surfed every day, and I was with great people.
How many people on the boat?
9.
Cool. So
10 and me, and we never surfed with other people. Barely surfed with other people the whole time. So that was a joy. And, to go from coaching, there's a lot of different types of coaching one can do.
Right. You're coaching pros and then you're coaching average surfers.
Yeah, and even from kids to mothers to longboarders, there's so many different forms of coaching that I'm involved in. And to go on a surf trip and coach recreational surfers and just help them to surf better is such a good vibe. That without the winning and the losing and the tragedy and the highs and lows of competition and being around the WSL contest sites, when you kind of feel like if you were wanted, you would have been there. And it's a tough ride. I mean, if you look at Carlos's Australia trip, he was there for 2 months and competed 8 days. 2 months away from your family, had a brand new baby. You're there for 2 months. You surf in competition heats for 8 days in 2 months. So... And even the winners have spent a lot of downtime. So, yeah, I learned on that trip. I was like, I think I like the old surf trips, perfect waves, and helping people surf better as an option for earning an income.
Yeah, especially for traveling, right?
And the family come along, and it was just a very different, to go from pro surfer coaching for Portugal, for Bells, through those events. Ordinarily, I do the coaching... How do you call that? By
online?
Correspondence,
right.
By distance, and you're not there physically.
Do you like physically being there? You think it's more impactful?
At events, I actually don't like being there, to be honest. You know what I mean? I don't like going back to those contest sites, and you feel like you're on treadmill and you're doing the same stuff you've done all these years, and there's so much more to do, and you need to be doing the other stuff. Since I retired, I've wanted to surf perfect waves. That's all I want to do, is get good waves. So to go on coaching trips where you get good waves, you know from coaching pro surfers, you don't surf a lot on those trips. You know what I mean? You're on the beach and you're working from the beach largely. They're surfing. The last thing the best surfers in the world need is another person out there making it harder for them to get waves. So you don't surf much in that type of coaching, and I really want to surf. So that was great. And then we went to the ISA World Surfing Games.
Where you were an announcer.
Well, actually, before I went to the ISA World Surfing Games, on the way there, I saw you at the...
That's right.
US Boardriders National Finals at Lower Trestles.
That was great having you and Fuley on the mic.
It was
all
a good
day,
time.
by the way. No breaks.
No breaks.
No, we didn't have a budget for breaks.
I was happy to support, mate, and it was great to see American surfing coming together as a community through Boardriders clubs.
We really got to get some board riders going in Hawaii.
You know, that's
North Shore, South Shore, Outer Islands. I mean, there's 3 teams right there.
Kahea said it to me yesterday, exactly. Kahea Hart said that to me in the surf. He says, we've got to get a board rider.
Well, we need Kahea, Bam, Sean Moody, Freddie, Shibata. Those are the guys that need to be the nucleus.
Yep.
Because they still got the fire. And those guys even run that HIO and things like that. So
Joel.
Kahea. So if you get that nucleus, then you start bringing in the Groms, and you know how good the board riders are. So what'd you think of seeing all the teams from all over the U.S. in the Stoke?
Yeah, I loved it, mate. I've always felt when I go to America that the people have always treated me nicely. I've always felt respected, and I've always had a good time, and I've always got good vibes, and it's always good to be somewhere where you feel like you're wanted. You know what I mean? And that national finals is a tribute to all of the people involved in what they've been able to build in such a short period of time. But so that was a great little pit stop on the way to the ISA World Surfing Games, where I was going to commentate not for 1 day straight, but for 8 days straight. And so that was a good little warm-up.
Good warm-up.
Yeah, get back in the booth. Fuley's a great old mate, and to be with that community that was the US Boardriders, and to watch San Clemente just blow up, hey?
I mean, that's a super surf town, right?
It may got to be, the greatest surf town in the world, perhaps?
Yeah, by the time a child is 3 years old, they can ride an e-bike and do a 360.
The surfing, there's so many good surfers, isn't there?
Is there a town like that in Australia?
Well, I suppose it's the Gold Coast. It is now. And as you look back and go Peter Townend, Rabbit Bath, Michael Peterson.
It's always been that.
And then you go through to, Joel, Mick and Dingo and all of the stuff that's around it. And then all of the surf industry, that started in Australia, in Brookvale, in Sydney, and the northern beaches of Australia were the heartbeat of Australian surfing, call it in the 60s and the 70s. It did start to move up the north coast in the 70s, but that was an alternative type of movement, you know what I mean? It wasn't the surf industry. It then went to Torquay, and was in Torquay, Rip Curl, Quicksilver, Piping Hot, all of what's down there. You've seen that. And then after Torquay, it's now moved to the Gold Coast, and that's where everything is on the Gold Coast. Most largely, that's where there's surfing organisations and, people moving their kids there because they feel like it's a good place for them to grow and become pro surfers or whatever,
These surf cities that develop, there's always a great wave around it, and there's always a big contest. So Trestles is always the home of some big event, or 2 or 3. Right now they got the U.S. champs on. The end of the world tour is there now. There used to be the Boost, used to be the Hurley Pro.
What's the end of the world tour?
Exactly. The end of the world. Just stop saying tour. But,
Classic, yeah, and that's right. And the Gold Coast is that. It's a hotbed, and it's... it's most probably, I've only surfed it. I don't know, have you surfed Superbank?
Yeah, of course.
I've only surfed it maybe 3 times.
Really?
And
I've foiled it quite a bit, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
out wide?
Tiny. Well, you just catch a little one, and then you pump out wide, and you're off to Kira in the blink of an eye. Way outside in the shipping lane. You're not dealing with the surfers.
Yeah.
I don't like to bring my foil near people.
No.
But it's incredible.
I don't like it.
No,
Let's be clear. I've gone there and I've surfed it, and I've always ended down at Greenmount somewhere, and I'm just going, I'd never surf near again. Mm-hmm. It's just not it's just not in. The waves are amazing, and I hear, if you know people's names, because if someone drops in on you and you know their name and you go, "Hey, John," they'll cut out.
So you should just say a name.
But if
What's
it's
a popular Australian name? Hey, mate.
Dave?
Dave.
Oh, that didn't work.
Davo.
Micko.
Mick. Davo.
But if you know the name, they will cut out. But if they hear, "Oi, hey," without a name, they go. And you're gone. So it's a different sort of surfing environment.
I think you just ride a big board and
I
mow
just
through the crowd. But
yeah, and I suppose a lot of people go to the beaches now, don't they? And there's all these other beach breaks and stuff where you can get
waves
about.
around
Yeah,
the Gold Coast.
it's a great spot. You talked about surf cities and them being a what would you call that? A glue to bringing a community together and creating opportunity for a community or for a country, for that matter. El Salvador.
So what do you think of their bid to call themselves Surf City?
I think it's pretty cool, mate. I think that their Prime Minister, from what I understand, I've never been there before, spent 9 days there and 8 of them at an event, and the beautiful thing was you knew that everybody wanted you there. They were stoked to have the world of surfing there and all these countries and all these teams and all this energy, and there was just good vibes all around. The food was incredible. You felt safe. There's a lot of machinery, heavy machinery on people around there too, and what I understand is that place used to be ruled by gangs and had a real gnarly gang thing. When he came into power, he gave the authorities the right to check anyone for tattoos. And if you had a gang tattoo, you were straight to jail. The word in the street was you used to have to pay the gangs to be able to walk your streets. And you got a little sticker that proved your having paid your money for that week or whatever to be able to meander the streets. So it was, and apparently it was a radical, dangerous, wild place, and it still has that energy in its jungle, in everything. It's wild, it's raw, and you feel like you're at the beginning of something. And he sees this opportunity to create a financial future. This is the Prime Minister of El Salvador. He's a financial future for his country through tourism and through this Surf City concept, and 500 million or whatever's been invested into this idea, and they're building the highway along that coastline, and there's, by all accounts, it's super consistent.
I mean, they brought in the ISA and then the WSL the following week.
And they had the ISA longboards there before the ISA Opens. So and they've been doing this for a few years now, and they're committed to the program of using surfing to bolster the financial future of their country. WSL and ISA were at different locations.
Oh, they were?
Yeah. ISA run 2 contest sites running.
They needed more waves and more.
Yeah, and WSL's got 1 right-hand point break. The ISA had La Bacana that has a left and a right, which is a great contest site. I never saw a heat where someone got lost for waves. There are a lot of waves. Cool. Lefts, rights, peaks, lots of opportunity. And then the point down there is called El Senzal, which is where they shot Biggest Wednesday, and the stuff for that is at that right point. So they've got 3 breaks, so 2 going at once, and then they're on their other. So kind of cool that it gave those events the opportunity to have their own personality. It would seem from the construction that was going on there, I don't know if you saw a reel I posted of the construction.
I did. It looked like they were building into the water.
They were massive,
an
mate.
inch away from the water line.
And there were a lot of...
But those are temporary, right, for the event?
And then there's some, what would you call it, little...
permanent stuff they're putting in?
Yeah, so the infrastructure that they build in and around an event is infrastructure that'll stay there for the public. So you can see a lot of good things going on in that country, a lot of good waves. That's some forward thinking, isn't it? To look at surfing and go, could we build financial prosperity or some kind of financial prosperity for our country out of this sport? I think we should, firstly, we'll recognise the champions. Alan Cleland Jr. winning it for Mexico. And so that was a great win. Tatiana Weston-Webb winning for Brazil in the ladies. And the blight, the low light of the event, it's got to be said, was some of the WSL surfers not showing up to surf their heats and getting through a few heats, knocking a few people out and then just not showing for their heats or being sick or having whatever the reason was. No one really believed it when they would say they were sick, but that was a bit of a bummer. So
Is that because they are confident they're going to qualify through the WSL?
Yeah, so they're qualifying through WSL. They've solidified their spot by surfing a few heats, and they're going to save themselves for the CT when they surf it. I think's the mindset. Not all of the, Kanoa Igarashi he made the final. He didn't take on that attitude. Tatiana, it was great to see her win and not think about next week, not think about tomorrow, but contribute to what today's giving you. And it was a shame to see people who that World Surfing Games and its involvement in the Olympics and that whole thing are giving people Olympic medals.
Why even go if you're not going to compete? Just let someone else from your country go and represent that can't qualify.
Yeah. I suppose that's going to be a
future topic.
And they're going to rectify that is recognised as energetically, emotionally, for everyone involved in the thing. That was the dark cloud. That was the only dark cloud.
I'm sure Fernando will address that.
So that'll be addressed. But yeah, Tachi, she didn't do that. And Team Peru won the teams, and they're so passionate. They love their surfing. We had Sofia Milanovic there on the Spanish broadcast. Yep. Doing the Spanish, so she's getting into webcasting and stuff. She was great at that. And then I've got my top 5 picks of moments that I really enjoyed. Tiara Vanderhals is a 15-year-old girl who is representing the Netherlands.
And she charged.
Little goofy footer. And she's in a heat and she needs a score, and it's a big day, and it's bigger than the roof. It's 3 times overhead for her. She comes off the bottom, gets up into the lip. She's kind of there a little early, so holds it and kind of turns it into a bit of a floater and airdrops it and lands it, gets the score and gets through the heat. And it was one of them moments where it was missed in real time. On the angle the judges saw, they claimed it incomplete, and a 1-5 comes through. And then a drone angle shows them, the judges, that she made it. And the contest has to go on hold while they assess this ride and how to manage this situation. And
that's cool. They fixed it.
They fixed it, gave her the score. She got through the heat, and then she went on to perform with that type of bravado every time she went into the water. And that young lady's got a big future, and for the Netherlands as well. Another lady that I was super impressed and honoured to meet was Setareh Mazari, is from representing Iran. From there, one of the first Arabic women surfers, the first to ever take part in the games.
Wow. And
there's consequences to her doing such, because it's not kosher, it's not what they would say a lady should do, how she, going to those games and doing that. But she loves surfing so much, and she's so passionate about her rights as an individual to be able to go surf. And become a part of this community that is this surf event. So it's like one of the last heats of the afternoon. Long, hot day, big waves, and her heat comes up. And she's hurt her shoulder, dislocated it earlier in the week. So we think she's not going to go out. She paddles out, and I'm going, she's going out. She's had the short shoulder. She paddles out. Gets out, kind of gets one, swings and gets one and gets to her feet and rides it in, then paddles out, gets a whitewater, rides it in, and then is on the cobblestones. And we're going, she did it. She got a couple of waves. And then she just you saw her get possessed, this little moment of, I'm going to get another one. And she just starts running along the cobblestones like this. And as she's running, I'm going to start crying. As she's running along those cobblestones, everybody, all the teams, all the different nations, all just start cheering and applauding her. And she's running along like this, and she throws her shuckers to the crowd.
It's a huge moment.
It was one of the best moments I've ever seen a surfing event. Mate, it was the best moment. Yeah, it was unreal. So it was emotional, mate. It was one of the best things I've ever seen. So that was another. Then Carlos, our good mate Carlos Munoz, he's round 4 or 5. He's way behind in the heat. He needs a big score. He takes off into this, gets this big ramp and just does this massive straight air.
I heard he's still in the air right now.
Yeah, it was massive, eh? Lands it, pops his shoulder, dislocates his shoulder, and you see it going. I go, oh no, because it's been popping out consistently since his surgery. And he lands the air, claims it, and then pops his shoulder back in and rides out.
Oh,
It was so
so
good.
he made the heat with that air.
And with that air, he made the heat. That was a buzzer beater, one like Tiara's. That was super cool. And for us, knowing him as we do and working with him, and knowing what he'd gone through in Australia was a real powerful moment. And then pops it back in, and then paddles back out that afternoon to surf another heat. So I was like, dude, I've dislocated both shoulders, and I'm not paddling out in anything after I've done that. So that was a great moment.
Why didn't he do that in Portugal?
Well, that's a gnarly landing there.
Yeah.
It's Super Tubos. And then Vahini Fierro, who I've worked with for years and are good friends with, and Carly Vast qualifying for the Olympic Games for France.
Those two have to be the front runners to win the Olympics at this point.
They're the two that everybody hoped didn't get the wild card.
Right.
The
The other people did not want them in.
100%.
So that's not a wild card. They earned their spot.
They earned their spot through being the highest placed surfer in that event for there were 4 continents: Asia, Europe, Africa. That got a spot. Top woman and top male from each of those 4 continents.
Kali and Vahini.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
For Europe.
arguably 2 of the best surfers at Chopu.
Well, without question.
Yeah.
So that's good. That was fantastic to see. So great game. The motto is how to make a world. I was at home one night after talking surfing all day and watching Setere's moment. And I'm sitting there and I think of the motto being to make a world a better place through surfing. And I was like, that's something I can get into. I live that anyway. I believe that. So I felt like
It's almost the motto of the Stoked Bloke Show.
that's the motto of what we try to give to people, isn't it? That, hey, what we do is magic. Surfing's magic. Going in the ocean and having that thing, that wash over you and put on a dance together, there's nothing better than that I've come across. So in all, it was an amazing week in El Salvador. I really liked it. I felt a lot of energy, mana down in that place. It's a wild, raw place. Good surf and great people, great event, great results, and congratulations to ISA and thank you for having me on board. Enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, one thing that wasn't good, I suppose, that I want to mention is the passing of the great Dane Kealoha. Obviously, one of the most gifted, creative individual surfers and styles. The way he approached a wave really wasn't based on, I'm sure it was based on some things that had fed him that inspiration in his youth and throughout his development, but the way he rode a wave was just him. No one rode a wave like Dane Kealoha, and you think, my mind goes to Johnny Boy Gomes as maybe someone who, carried on in that powerhouse tradition, but Johnny would have looked at Dane. I don't know who Dane looked at, but whoever Dane looked at.
Yeah, I know a lot of surfers from his era say that Dane was by far the best surfer, 81, 82, should have won a world title.
Yeah.
Got booted, all his points taken away off the ASP tour because he wouldn't pay a fine for surfing in the Duke. Eddie Rothman and some of the people from Dahui actually gave him a world title trophy. Well-deserved. Yeah.
Dane comes up to me at the event.
Where?
I don't even know. I don't even remember. But it was one of these where he goes, hey, when you come to Hawaii, let me know. I'll get you a lift from the airport. And I was like, wow, Dane Kealoha. I was a little kid, grommet, mate. And I was like, wow, Dane Kealoha offered me a ride. And when I was coming, I told him, hey, I'm going to come. And he said, I'll come pick you up. And I'm thinking, really? Is this happening?
Were you thinking it was a setup?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's a setup. I get to the airport and I'm waiting, and I wait a good amount of time. I'm thinking, he's not coming. It's a setup. 45 minutes, you're there. There's no one else there outside arrivals, and you're sitting there. And then I see a truck pull up. And it's Dane Kealoha, and he says, jump in, and gives me a ride out to the North Shore. We go straight to V-Land, and you could drive right down to the water's edge, and all the boys are there, and I'm hanging out with Dane Kealoha for the day, and we surf, and then we drove and got Haagen-Dazs ice cream and went back to his Turtle Bay and had some dinner, and then he dropped me at Mark Foos at the Backpackers where I was staying. And I had this incredible day where I got to spend it with someone that you looked up to so much that you were trying to figure out why they were helping you. You know what I mean? It was one of those situations. So that showed me the type of bloke he was. And then, that whole thing when they switching, IPS to ASP and the tour things, they're like cuts, worse than mid-year cuts, where people to surf the events that they're in their home beaches that they wait their whole year to surf that mean so much to them when they're told they can't. But anyway, that's the politics and the dark side of the sport, isn't it? There's that history of stories of people at the misfortune. And speaking of which, one of the most controversial ones was Gabriel Medina's comments off the back of the surf ranch, where he came out and criticised the judges for not encouraging or scoring modern, innovative, progressive manoeuvres the way they should, and kind of pointing the finger at other people and suggesting that the Brazilians should have done better than they did, and it blew up.
What did you think about Elo's letter telling everyone to shut up and not talk about the judging?
Yeah, I mean...
What a leader, huh?
It's...
Why is there no transparency with the judging? No explanations ever.
Well, you don't see them. You don't even know who they are, right? They bring in Richie Porter to do the speaking head of the judges and tell them... And
he's in Australia, hasn't worked on tour for 3-4 years.
Exactly. And, we have ideas like... and I don't know whether we go into it here or whether it's... But you might remember days of the judges' results coming down as 5 judges to 0, 4 judges to 1, 3 judges to 2.
Right, each judge having their own...
They pick a winner. And it doesn't... We could have different best 2 waves of the heat and still have the same winner.
But nowadays they want to show a score, a number.
And because this new system came about because they wanted to put surfing onto a computer.
Consensus.
And so they create this system. And the reason why I did a video where I don't believe the judges are corrupt. I don't believe they're dishonest and they're thieving and they're intentionally behaving that way.
But they're human and they can get a score wrong.
And and I've judged that backdoor shootout, and I know it's a hard job, mate. And you can get things wrong, and the best thing you can do when you get it wrong is admit you did, right? But as it turned out, I support Gabriel's right to say what he felt.
Sure.
And that's a good thing, mate. And the opportunity for the conversation to take place and for people to talk about it, because since WSL, the only thing that hasn't changed is the judging. It's the most important part of the whole sport is the judging, but it hasn't been changed or tinkered with. And I think I've told everybody at WSL that I could over the years, from Dirk Ziv to Dave Proden to Elo, Jed, Pat O'Connell, Kieran Perot, Renato Hickel. Hey, the way you fix the judging, because it's fundamentally flawed. It can't work because its basic principle is it relies on 5 people to agree to look right.
You might as well have one person.
And
at
even
that point.
And then you go knocking off high and low. Why are they there if you do that?
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's to manage this opportunity to present something that looks right. And the other thing is, for me, I honestly believe this. I don't know how you feel about yourself. I'm not good enough to be a judge. My technical understanding of modern airs is non-existent.
It's easy to learn.
Well, I don't know that I'm in a position where I would be comfortable going, pipeline and barrels, and I feel confident knowing what's going on and understanding that. Understanding what they're doing in the air and what is more difficult than the other, I believe that if you can't do it, you may not be able to judge it.
Well, I think you could easily have a 1-weekend camp with coaches, surfers, judges, everyone talking, filming everything, and everyone agreeing, this is a 5, this is a 6, this is a 7, this is an 8, this is a 9, this is a 10, and at least you'd have a heads up of what we're all agreeing on, and there could be nuance in between, and then you go to your 5 judges, like you said, each with their own scale.
That's right.
And you do a 3-2, 4-1, 5-0.
And it's got to be the highest paid job in the sport.
Yes.
It has to be for the absolute most respected elders, present elders, to pass on the traditions of good surfing. And the panel should be Shane Dorian, CJ Hobgood and Mick Fanning.
Well, it should be a lot of these guys who are getting paid to coach should be getting paid more to be judges.
And
it's
there
a
are
hard
a lot
job.
of pro surfers, but I think it's got to be turned into a job that is respected. The people passing down the decisions have to have the respect of the public. Mark Richards is telling me my score, I'm wearing it.
Or you could just get AI to solve this.
That's right. To judge this heat for us, please. We should do that as an experiment.
AI versus the actual judges.
Take Griff's and Italo's ways. You know, when you've watched it so many times, you don't know. My first impression, though, those first 3 or 4 before the tube of Italo's was so fast.
They were so much
crisp.
faster.
It just looked like a different surfer, and that's so. Yes. At the start of the wave, I've gone. Oh, there's no question.
Yes.
Right.
So Griffins were great, smooth top turns. I wish I could surf like that. And Italo he threw 4. Griffin threw 3. Not that it matters, numbers.
No, but it
does. The barrel
does.
was more complicated. He dropped into the barrel. It was backside. It was deep. It was long. And he came out. And then, anyway, yes. The nuance, if you really watch, but I don't know if you can really watch as it's happening.
Because it's so
in real life.
emotional.
I had the benefit of watching this over and over on a replay.
Right.
And I feel like I got the right result. But I don't know.
Let me do something.
Yeah.
I got this.
Barton's going to do something. Barton has abandoned his post. He's navigating over to his phone. He's working his way back. He's stepping over lights, cables, and he's trying to remember his password. He's in. He's in.
Here we go. This is on Instagram, a message from someone. It said, I was at the Surf Ranch Pro and I love the passion the Brazilians have when they cheer their fellow countrymen on. But they were yelling and booing at Ethan and Colapinto before every run, semi and final. So there was bad vibes before the scores even came out.
Brazilians in the crowd or Brazilian surfers?
Brazilians in the crowd. The crowd of Brazilians.
Well, that's not surprising.
Well, there you go. So what my point is energetically, are the fans booing and hissing the opposition of their Brazilian countrymen, creating a feeling amongst people, judges even subconsciously, where they don't even know they're influenced at that point in time, but the way they're looking at what they're looking at has been influenced by that booing and hissing of the opposition, which we all consider to not really be good sportsmanship, right? We don't. No one likes it when someone's booing and hissing someone, even in politics, which is where it's it's random. Everyone see them in the house and they're all just barking at each other and so disrespectful. In the real world, we try to keep that. So I wonder if there was an energetic influence in that moment from that booing and hissing of the crowd against the opposition that impacted the way the judges saw it. They didn't know they were impacted at the time. Or, there are people that honestly believe that too many Brazilians is just not good for business. And they've got to have an American in that final 5. You've got to, and it can't be. So there's people that believe that that's the reason the scores are what they're scored, because there's that influence from above and commercial interests and wanting to make money. So
I don't think the judges are influenced by that stuff at all. Those guys are pretty solid on that front. Plus, there's Brazilian judges.
Yeah, and you know them.
Yeah.
We know. I don't know all of them, but I know quite a few of them, and I know one whose family he had death threats against his family, and that's when I went, oh, so heavy. There's not, it's like, and it is people's livelihood and their jobs, and at the same time. So that was super controversial. Same way, I've felt that about Gabrielle. I feel like I'm almost biased about Gabrielle's surfing because I love it, and I feel like he's worked the hardest for every score he's ever got. I've never seen him get anything for free. I don't feel like I've ever seen him get a freebie. Every score he's ever got, he's had to work so hard for. And it's almost because of the role that he had in things for a while as kind of the dark knight of the tour or whatever that, position that he filled, created that difficulty for him to get scores.
That's just a goofy foot talking.
Yeah. Yeah, and fair call too. But at the same time, I think, people who are used to being influenced by stuff and aware of themselves and their emotional reactions to the things around them, which is a competitor's job, primary job, they're good people to judge because they understand themselves and they've been in the situation and they know the influences. They can catch themselves getting carried away in a moment of emotion or whatever because they're used to doing that as a job. Keep the focus. So that's why I think, highest paid people this is back to the judging criteria, highest paid people that their money can buy, most respected athletes, the most rightful people to pass on those traditions, people who the culture and the sport respect. Back to the old 5-0, 4-1, 3-2 judges' decision. And then in commentary, when a score's come down and you've called it a 4 and I've called it a 7,
Explain yourself.
we cross in commentary, we cross to the judges and we go, hey, Shano, you came in at a 4, the other guys had around, what didn't you like? Well, when he caught the rail and he did this and he explains why he gave it the score he gave it, and we educate the public on surfing, of which there is no real education done, because as it stands now, the judges are kind of hidden in a sense. And when you walk into the judging room, which I did at ISAs, it's so quiet. It's so serious. I'm almost like, maybe we need a bit of music or something to break the tension. I'm nervous in here. Just standing in that room, I'm nervous, having to drop scores.
Huh?
Well, having to drop scores in the midst of a moment, and it's a bit tough. I wouldn't want to do it. No. But so that was, it was interesting, and I think the important thing was that we respect people's right to an opinion, and in the end, it doesn't change anything.
Yeah, whether it's a judge or a surfer.
Yeah, and
everyone's allowed to have an opinion.
And you all make mistakes, and none of us are perfect, and it's done. It's over. They're going to Brazil next.
Okay, Saquarema, just give me a winner, women's and men's. Give me one name. 5 seconds. Doot, 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 doot. Want me to help you? Felipe Toledo. He's won the last 3 times.
Yeah, he won't win this time.
He's not going to win?
I don't think he's going to win.
Gabriel.
He's just won.
You're going goofy.
He's just won, right? I'm going Gabriel, yeah.
And for the women's?
No, I'm going Italo. Let me change that. I don't. One of a goofy Brazilian.
Okay, Italo and
Italo. I have trouble thinking in terms of winner because it's always just a guess.
Want help? Carissa.
No, I'm not going there.
Oh. I'm Felipe and Carissa.
You're Felipe and Carissa.
Yeah, easy.
I'm going,
Tati coming off the ISA.
I'm going Tati and Italo.
Caroline won in El Salvador on rights.
And that backhand's lethal. Depends. Those 2 contest sites at Saquarema are very different ways.
Bottom line, you're going goofy.
One's a manoeuvre thing. Bottom line is I don't pick winners. I don't. It's against my religion. Because then I look for what I picked. And then I go, that wasn't right because... And when they lose, you're making excuses for yourself.
But you still did say...
That's what, when I was...
Italo and...
You made me say.
Tatiana.
Okay,
that's not
bad. We'll live with it. I'm happy to live with that.
That's a good call.
So I think, respect and love to the great Dane Kealoha. Good on ISA for a fantastic games. Looking forward to Brazil and been some great surfing, and to see Griff getting consistency. You know what? One of the wonderful things is, just to sign off, is his post, Griffin Colapinto's post, after all of this, that he was in the middle of, and that you could easily take as people saying you don't deserve what you got.
You see him like hugging Italo and Gabriel. He's friends with, they're like one traveling group of friends.
And the way he wrote the comments that he wrote was so enlightened and aware and mature and unemotional, and he just kind of went, everyone's got their own thing. We all see things differently. We're all at different stages of our emotional and personal development, sporting career development. We're all,
I hope people were paying attention to what he said.
Yeah, he's a good man. Ethan Ewing too, great performance is the one with Gabriel Medina. That was harder to pick. Thank you, everybody. It's been good to be back at the Pipeline Studios. Massive thanks to A New Earth Project and you, PK.
Yeah, mate.
Thank you, brother. And to the surfing world, we love yous. Next week, we'll try and get into a bit of a groove now, and got a lot of important, fun things to share with you as we go forward. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, PK. Love yous.